Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today? This is Derry Presbyterian Church. Today is November 10th, and today in the issues class at Derry Presbyterian, we are going to be discussing the second part of the gift of conversation. This program, if you watched before, you know that the program is going to be describing the importance of advanced care planning for healthcare and for end-of-life care. So my name is Kathleen Hetrick. I'm a member here at Derry, but as a volunteer, I do these kinds of presentations throughout the community. Can we have a second slide, please? We do this as a group called the Aging Inspired Initiative of Lebanon County. And under that initiative is the Advanced Care Planning Coalition. So what you're going to be hearing this morning is coming from the Advanced Care Planning Coalition of Lebanon County. In your packets that you have, and for those of you who are watching online, there are packets available in the church office that you can pick up or ask to have delivered to you, that you can follow along as the video progresses. So that might be very, very helpful. But in that packet, you have a blue brochure like this, and that will actually explain to you on the outside what the Aging Inspired Initiative is, and on the inside, it will talk to you about the gift of conversation that we are going to talk about today. There's also a flyer in there about the Community Health Council of Lebanon County, and that organization is like the umbrella that watches over the health and wellness of everyone in Lebanon County from cradle to grave. So we are listed as one of the organizations under the Community Health Council of Lebanon County. I just want to say a few words before we start. As we go out to different groups, and as we have been going out since 2018, we have found that for the most part, people have, as you might realize, people have a hard time talking about issues where, first of all, planning ahead. That's not something a lot of people do today. And secondly, talking about death and dying, or their own death and dying. However, having worked at Cornwall Manor, which is a continuing care retirement community in Lebanon County, I have met many, many seniors through the years who know that they're going to die. In fact, they came to Cornwall Manor to live out the last years of their lives. But the question of how am I going to die is what really stumps them, and in some cases causes anxiety. So that we have found in talking with seniors since 2018 that by helping people to plan out, to make their decisions about their values and wishes about the end of their life, getting it down on paper, and then communicating that with the people who need to know, the anxiety disappears. In fact, as I say, they're enabled to live their lives to the fullest until the time that they die. And so that's one of the reasons that I do this somewhat passionately, because I've seen so many people be helped by what we do in the community. Our speaker this morning is Roberta Geidner. She is the co-coordinator of the Advanced Care Planning Coalition of Lebanon County, along with me, except she's the expert in the field. She has certifications from national organizations, the Conversation Project, Respecting Choices, and Common Practice. You'll see how that information comes out as we progress through our program this morning. But more importantly, she too has a passion for this kind of work, and you'll hear more about that as you go through the program today. We welcome you, both the people that are here today and those people who are watching streaming and those people who will watch us later on video. Welcome again, and make sure that you listen carefully, and then, most important thing, use what you hear today and go home and look at your advanced directives and look at your planning and be anxiety-free. Roberta, it's your turn. We welcome you this morning to Derry Presbyterian Church.
Thank you, Kathy, so much. Always a pleasure to do these presentations together with Kathy, because she's got such a passion for this. And she's our coordinator throughout the county. She's got all the connections to make these things happen. So last week, what we did was we got an overview of what advanced care planning is, why it's important, why having conversations with your loved ones is the most important part of this whole process. Of course, having your legal documents are as well, but it has to start with that conversation. And your assignment was to use the conversation starter guide and to work on the 5 Wishes booklet. So how many of you were able to do that assignment? Ah, good. So I look forward to getting your feedback. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to talk about the 3 different legal documents that you need for advanced care planning, when to use them, what makes them legal, and then continue this idea about conversations and why conversations are so important. So that you understand that it's not just about completing a document, putting it in a safety deposit box, which you should never do, by the way, or not sharing it with everybody who needs a copy. So we want to make sure that we change our view about advanced care planning. That first of all, we decide that we want to take this journey in exploring what's most important to us, what are our values, what are our goals, how would we want to be treated when we face the end of our life, because no one knows when that will happen. A lot of people think I don't need to do this until I'm older and I'm sicker. Well, that's the farthest thing from the truth, because I'm sure you could read in the paper recently about a 30-year-old that died, a 19-year-old that died, somebody that got into a serious health crisis that was much younger, and family members didn't know anything about what they wanted. Discuss what you want then with your loved ones, and after all of that is done, then document it in these 3 legal documents that I'm going to talk about. And again, I want to reiterate what Kathy said. I am certified as a advanced care planning facilitator for healthy people, for people with serious illness, and for people at the end of their life through Respecting Choices. I'm certified as a facilitator and a presenter through 5 Wishes with Aging with Dignity. I'm also a host through Common Practice, a certified host for the Hello Game. And I do consulting right now for both 5 Wishes and Respecting Choices. So I wanted to do that disclosure real quick. As we talked about last week, advanced care planning is a process. It's not a one and done. It should start at age 18, end at age 120, and it's a process that you revisit your legal documents and you revisit your decisions and your conversations at various times through your life, as your life changes, as your relationships change, as your health changes, as your life position changes. You want to have these conversations multiple times. I can tell you that after my husband died at age 51, he was my power of attorney and I was his. I didn't know anything about this because that was 18 years ago. And I chose my 2 best friends to be my healthcare agents. I had long conversations with them. I gave them documents. They knew exactly what I needed. A year after my husband died, I was in the hospital near death, going into surgery, and neither one of them showed up. One said, I'm 4 states away, I can't possibly get back. I'm so sorry, but I know you have a second person. And I called that second person, and she said, oh geez, I know we talked, and I think you gave me papers, but you know what, I'm not really comfortable doing this, so I'm so sorry, I can't be there. Well, as the nurses kept saying, this is really serious, don't you want somebody here? Don't you have anybody that can be here? And as I'm bawling, I'm saying, yeah, I have 2 people, but neither one of them can show up. So that's why having these conversations, doing your plan, making sure the people you choose are going to show up is one of the most important things that you can do. So we went through these phases of life last week, perfectly healthy, beginning progressive chronic disease like asthma, hypertension, acid reflux, diabetes, kidney disease, where medications or changes in lifestyle, changes in diet, exercise can make a difference. Phase 3, which is progressive, complicated disease, COPD, congestive heart failure, cancer, Alzheimer's and dementia, end-stage renal disease, all of these where you need an advance directive, a living will, and a power of attorney for health care. In phase 4, you still need those things, but phase 4 is that last year of life. So in the end of phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4, you want palliative care. Palliative care is a service of doctors, nurses, case managers, social workers who help you to manage your chronic disease while you're getting treatments. They are ancillary to your primary care doctor and your specialist. When you get into phase 4, you want hospice care, which is a form of palliative care, but it is the last 6 months of life. It is a care that keeps you comfortable, same kinds of things, doctors, nurses, social workers. Many of us don't know about palliative care or hospice care. They're both quality of life improvers, life extending services. In phase 4, that third document is a physician order for life-sustaining treatment that you want for transport purposes. So I'm going to show you all 3 of these documents during this presentation. So I have a short film, a woman who has been on this journey for quite a while, and she shares the reasons why this work is so important.
I think what we've typically seen is that this conversation happens when folks tend to be older or there may be an illness. And so I think in the minds of everyone, it's kind of something to happen when you're quote unquote old and sick. I'll give you an example. I just ran a table at an expo that we had recently. It's called the 50 Plus Expo. And I was just asking people as they passed, do you have an advance directive? Have you had this important conversation? And one of the people said, I'm 87 and still ticking, so I don't need that. And it was just this idea of that's something I'll think about when I'm sick. And so really our campaign is all about trying to get anyone over the age of 18 in the county to talk about this so that it's not this kind of scary, death-focused, if you bring it up, it means something's wrong with you conversation. It's just something that we all do because as we all know, anything can happen to anyone at any time. Just because you're 18 doesn't mean you're invincible. So I think that's really important for us is to take it out of that mindset of it's for death, it's for sickness, it's for older people, and make it more of a cultural norm.
So, she just reinforced what I just said. You start early. You start when there's not a crisis. Because when there is a crisis, it's too hard to have those conversations. And oftentimes, you're not able to because you don't have capacity. So here's our audience participation question. So think about, and maybe write down on the PowerPoint that I gave you today, think about what you've learned from someone who's been seriously ill or who's died. Friend, colleague, family member. How has it influenced your view of death and dying, and how you'll want to be treated and cared for? So write down a couple of answers, and when you're ready, I'm going to ask you to share. And Kathy's going to capture that over here on our flip chart. For those of you at home, please do the same thing. Unfortunately, I can't have you share, but it's important to think about what you've learned because that often influences. I learned a lot from my husband's death, from my mother's death, my father's death, and from good friends who died. And it really has influenced what I want and what I don't want when I get close to that same condition. Anybody want to share their thoughts? Go ahead, Dawn.
So when I was in my 40s, my 57-year-old husband died. And we knew 2 years before that it was coming. And I already was in the health field, and so I discussed my feelings about things, but of course wasn't sure what he wanted for himself. And he really spoke up. He sat down with me and our 3 teenagers at the time, and was very clear that he wanted to stay home, that he wanted us to fill the house with people. He didn't want to be alone. He wanted us to let anybody come in that wanted to see him, which we did up through the night he passed away. He wanted palliative care, he wanted hospice. He told me what he wanted for his funeral arrangements. I mean, it was all laid out. And it went so far as him to say to the kids, Dawn's in her 40s, she's probably gonna get remarried again. You know, it's your job to be supportive and loving and encouraging of that. And I think it was a gift to the kids and I, that there were no questions about how things were going to happen. We just,
How wonderful, Dawn, to
Yeah, it
have
was
that
very
experience.
easy.
Yeah,
not easy, but
no,
it made it easy in a bad situation.
made it easier. And you knew exactly what to decide.
Absolutely.
So you have no guilt, no anxiety that you made the wrong decision, and research shows that over and over again.
Mhm.
Somebody else? Paul?
I learned, don't wait to the last minute to go on hospice.
Because?
My father, we finally put him on hospice about 48 hours before he died.
Oh my.
And he was dying of dementia, so he eventually stopped breathing. And the morphine that would have made his passing more comfortable was still in transit when he died.
Yeah, yeah. And hospice, that hospice benefit, research has shown if you get it 6 months before you're predicted to die, it just improves the quality of your life and the quality of life for your caregivers. Now, hospice isn't 24/7, of course, but it does do a lot to help the dying process. Anyone else? I had a colleague whose mother had dementia and she was dying. And at the end, they were feeding her thickened water for nutrition. And my colleague said, oh my God, that was so awful. I just can't stand that. So she went home, got out her advance directives, wrote down, don't ever give me thickened water. I never want that. So these are the things that we learn. Kathy, thanks for capturing that. And they're all different. That's the thing. All of our experiences are different. And if we share these experiences, others can learn from us. So
Roberta,
here are the, go ahead, Jack.
I get, sorry, I can probably add one more thing.
Good.
Between my wife's parents and my parents, they passed away and like from 2008 to 2021. 3 of them were in long-term care facilities, which made me think to choose what long-term care facilities I might want to go into if it comes down to that.
Yeah, and you'll see that in the 5 wishes on page 5, that it mentions your healthcare agent possibly putting you into an assisted living facility or a continuing care community like Cornwall Manor is and some other facilities here. But it is important. Interview hospice providers, interview palliative care providers, go and see assisted living. Make a decision before you have to be placed there. Because for some people, they think they're going to live forever in the home that they've all grown up in or lived most of their life in. And if it's a 2-story house, the bedroom, the bathroom's just on the 2nd floor, they're now not able to really manage those stairs well. Now you can put a lift in, but even that can get harder for some people. And you fall and go into the hospital won't allow you to go back home because you're too much at risk being at home. And if you've not picked a place, then we have to pick it for you. It may not be the place that you'd want. And you can't go back home and get all your belongings.
It's also valuable in 2 of these cases, having run into people that live there to give us what they think. And in one case in particular, they came to us to tell us what, about how nice it was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really, really important to do. And so here are the 3 decisions, as we talked about last week, that you need to consider. First of all, Who are the 3 people you trust the most who can be your healthcare agents? First one is a primary. Second and third are backups to that primary person. If that person isn't available for whatever reason, you pick your spouse. You're both in the same car accident. Unfortunately, your spouse passes away or is in a coma. They're not able to help you make decisions. And so you need somebody to back them up. Because in Pennsylvania, the next person in your family can't automatically be made the decision maker. Pennsylvania decides who's next if you haven't named a second or a third person. We're in Derry Presbyterian Church. You are all people of faith. So what are your cultural, spiritual, religious beliefs that might influence your decisions about who you choose as your healthcare agent, what you want done in terms of being comfortable, in terms of prayers, music, food, and how you're going to die? Most faiths have tenets about death and dying. And so what is important to you in that realm? And that is part of what the 5 wishes provides in wishes 3, 4, and 5. What health care do you want to receive if you have a severe and permanent brain injury? Now, why do I say severe and permanent brain injury? Well, that's one of 4 cases of when you would be close to death. The first one is close to death because of old age and frailty, a terminal condition that can no longer be treated, or some serious medical crisis that's occurred. The second scenario would be in a coma with brain damage. Many of you may not realize that that's the typical result of CPR, particularly if you're over the age of 60. Or permanent severe brain damage. For those of us who are older, we'd remember the Terry Schiavo case, where she was in her 30s, was brain dead, but her parents, in opposition to her husband, because she had no paperwork, decided that she should stay on life support mechanical treatment for 15 years before a decision could be made to terminate them. So I want to explore these, and this is where I'd like you to pull out your 5 wishes that you've worked on already. So wish 1 and 2 are the wish for the person I want to make healthcare decisions for me when I can't make them for myself. My wish for the kind of medical treatment I don't do and don't want is wish 2. That's your living will document. Wish 1 is your power of attorney for healthcare document. And then wish 3 starts 3 wishes that are not legal documents, but are so powerful in terms of helping our loved ones really know what to do for us. Oftentimes when someone, I know when my husband was so ill, there were many times I just didn't know what to do. And if I had had this kind of document, I would have known, and I did provide him with massage services. He had never had a massage in his life. It was the last 3 months of his life. And he loved that more than anything. So here's what I want to do. So this 5 wishes document is the document that has been the preferred document by WellSpan for the last 7 years. When I was manager of the Advanced Care Planning Program at WellSpan, this is what we chose back in 2017, and over the course of my 7-year history with our team and with all of our healthcare system, we distributed about 250,000 copies of this. Aging with Dignity and 5 Wishes themselves have distributed about 40 million copies. And a gentleman by the name of Jim Towie, who worked with Mother Teresa in hospice, determined that people didn't die in a way that brought respect and dignity. And so 26 years ago, he created this document, and over the last 26 years, there have been 40 million of them distributed around the United States. So it is a document that is a legal advance directive document in Pennsylvania, as well as in 46 states, as it is. In 4 other states, there's just 1 additional step that's needed to make it a legal document. It's called an advance directive with a heart and soul because of wish 3, how comfortable do I want to be? Wish 4, how do I want people to treat me? Wish 5, what do I want my loved ones to know? oftentimes I hear from people that this is the most easy to read, easy to work with, easy to fill out. What was your experience as you worked with it over this last week? Anybody got a little feedback? Was it easy? I know the topic is hard, but is the document itself easy? Yeah, some head shakes in the room. Okay, so go to page 4 in the booklet. Page 4 is wish 1, and in Pennsylvania, your healthcare agent will go into effect and begin making decisions for you when you are not able to, as determined by one physician. So once one physician says you don't have capacity to make a healthcare decision, either temporarily, because of medication, because of anesthesia, because you're in a coma, because you're sedated, for whatever reason, your healthcare agent will step in. If a physician says you have permanent loss of capacity because of Alzheimer's and dementia, some other kind of neurologic disease, or for some other reason, your healthcare agent then will make decisions for you all the time. Your healthcare agent, if you look at the bottom of page 4, should meet these characteristics that we talked about last week. Should be someone that you've already talked to and they've accepted the role and the responsibility to do that. Somebody who's going to show up for you, as my 2 friends didn't. Somebody who will make the decisions based on what you want, not necessarily what they would want. And who can deal with a crisis and deal with conflict in case there's any dysfunction in the family. Somebody flies in from out of state and says, I don't care what they wrote, I don't care what they said, I want to hang on to them longer. Or I don't want to hang on to them at all, I want to rush that death. You need a healthcare agent that can say, okay, hold on, here's what they said to me, I'm the legal person to make the decision, here's what we're going to do. And they have this document, or whatever document you have, whether it's been created by an attorney, you've written it out on a piece of paper, or you've done a document through one of our other health systems. If you go to page 5, page 5 is kind of the responsibilities list. Here's what you have to do as a healthcare agent. Here are the decisions that I want you to make or I don't want you to make. So as you go through this, you can cross anything out that you wouldn't want. And remember, your healthcare agent is going to make a decision for preventative care, for curative care, or for end-of-life care. So you've gone in the hospital, you have pneumonia, we expect you to recover from pneumonia, but you're on a ventilator, you're sedated, can't make a decision, so your healthcare agent is going to step in and making that decision on when you come off that ventilator, how well your health is improving, should you get this medication or that medication. So that's the role of your healthcare agent. A couple of things on here. Jack, go ahead.
How is a medical power of attorney related to this?
So it's the same name. So medical power of attorney for healthcare, healthcare agent, all of those names are the same in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So if you've got a medical power of attorney document from an attorney, that's your power of attorney for healthcare, that's your healthcare agent.
But you don't need that as long as you have a document otherwise.
So if you give the legal status to the person you've chosen with that document. So these 2 pages give you the legal document you need so that person can walk into a hospital, walk into a doctor's office, provide this document, and they will listen to them to make decisions. If you don't have that document, if you don't have a power of attorney for healthcare document or a medical power of attorney document, then that person can't make decisions for you. So that's why it's important to put your primary person and your 2 backups on page 4, and then on page 5, determine what you want them to determine. So this is where, Jack, I was saying, the bullet on the left-hand side says, consider a nursing home, assisted living facility, hospice, a hospital. healthcare agent making determinations about treatment, hiring home health care. So if you want to be cared for at home, this is a place where you write out, for as long as possible, I want home health care. Please find a way to provide me with the support I need at home. I want hospice care at home. I would like palliative care to be provided. I don't want to live long-term in a nursing home. Don't cross out nursing home up above, because then that limits your healthcare agent. And oftentimes nursing homes are the only place we can send people from a hospital to rehab, because mainly there are rehabilitation places in most instances. This is where you can say, I want to donate my usable organs. But you've got 3 choices there. You can do it here, as it's stated. That's what's on your driver's license. In Pennsylvania, we can donate everything. So you can donate your skin for burn victims. You can donate your nose, your ears, your bones, your hands, your feet. Now we have a lot of opportunities for replacement for people who need it. The other third opportunity then is to donate your body to science, education, or research, and you do that through the Humanity Gifts Registry of Pennsylvania. That's the Pennsylvania designated organization that works with about 30 different medical schools and dental schools where you can donate your cadaver for research. Your body is then returned to your family if you want it that way after it's been cremated. You can also donate it to Johns Hopkins, to Penn State Health, to Mayo Clinic if you've got a particular disease, and they could use it for research. Excuse me. That's what we did with my husband. He'd been in some clinical trials with Johns Hopkins for pancreatic cancer. They wanted to study his body. He was 50 years old when he got diagnosed and died 10 months later, and so that's what we did. So once these 2 pages are done, you've got your legal power of attorney for healthcare. Now, what if one person dies? What if one person you've chosen moves away and you've said, oh, they're too far away, I don't want them any longer? Can you just scratch out their name and write over it, kind of initial and date it? Do you think that's the appropriate thing? Well, it'll tell you here at the bottom of page 5, no, you can't do that. You have to create a whole new document. So you just get a new 5 wishes document. You can copy the rest of the pages, but you have to change the document with the new document. So when does this go into effect? Again, when you're too sick or hurt to communicate your own wishes, wish 1 will go into effect. Once you're able to make your own decisions again, you'll be back in control of your own decisions. That's why talking about this and not just handing your document to somebody is so important, because I could read this and totally misinterpret what you mean by it. I need to hear it in your voice. Jennifer?
Sort of like you stated earlier, what if the other way around, that the person who was designated says, I don't want to do this anymore? Can it be crossed out?
It can't be crossed out, but you can replace them.
Okay.
So you can replace, if they say, I can't do this anymore for you, you just create a new document and you replace them with someone else.
And they're not legally obligated to?
They're not.
Okay.
Well, and no one is. So I had somebody call me and say, oh, my friend put me down as her healthcare agent, and I don't want to get in the mix of that family. So please take my name off of her form. Well, that's not anything I could do or anybody else could do. I said to her, listen, go back to your friend and just tell her you're not comfortable, you love her, but you just can't do this for her. And ask her to take your name off and create a new document for herself. Or just don't answer the call when it comes.
Even after the fact, after the death, you
Even-
could still?
Yep.
Okay.
So if you don't answer the call, for whatever reason, we'll have to go to the next person.
Okay.
It would be best for that person then to have 3 people. So it would be good to create a new document. The other thing you have in your packet, on the left-hand side, way in the back, before 2 of the booklets, is this Making Choices card. This too should be given to your healthcare agents with your 5 wishes or with any advance directive. This document, again, tells the responsibilities for a healthcare agent. What are they supposed to do? What are they supposed to know? When will they act? You know, we make people healthcare agents and they don't know what to do. They don't know what their responsibilities are. That's why I love 5 wishes. Because I look at most attorney documents and they just say, okay, you're the healthcare agent. Here's a few decisions you won't make. Go on with your life. And you need people who can show up when you need them. All right, so let's go to wish 2. Maybe. Maybe.
Just
Come on.
click somewhere on the slide, Roberta, and then you'll be able to read
Yeah, that's what I did.
it. Not working?
No, let's see. There we go. Okay, wish 2. We're going to go to page 6 and 7. Wish 2, the kind of medical treatment I want or don't want. This is known as a living will document. This is the same anywhere in the country. Now, that power of attorney for healthcare is called different things in different states. And capacity is determined either by 1 physician or 2 physicians. It depends on what state you're in. So you can't necessarily say, oh, I just did this in Pennsylvania. Son who lives in Colorado, do it the same way. May not be the same in Colorado, but it is a legal document in Colorado. These have been written for WellSpan. One of the things that I did was to make sure that this represents Pennsylvania law. So this expresses what you want your caregiver to know, what life support means to you. And again, we had that patient education guide that's part of your packet that tells you what CPR is, that tells you what dialysis actually is and does. What are the benefits, but also what are the detriments as you get older, as you get frailer, as your health declines. Is CPR the right choice? Is dialysis the right choice 3 days before you're going to die? Is tube feeding, hydration and nutrition through tube feeding the right choice? Temporarily, perhaps. Long term, you need to know what the detriments are of tube feeding, and it's in that document. Intubation and ventilation. When do you want that? You could get that at the end of life, but it's only going to prolong the moment of your death, not improve the quality of your life. And what you want is to, again, leave this intact, because this tells the healthcare team and your healthcare agents that you understand these are the things that go into life support. What you want to do on the lines below is to say, for me, here's what I said. I don't want any of these life support when I am at the end of life and I'm not expected to recover. I want this life support if there's any chance of recovery, where I will have the quality of life I have now, where I can walk and talk and hear and do the things that I love to do. I don't want to be in pain, so please make sure that I'm not in pain. If it's my time to go, please let me go. Don't hang on to me too long. Whatever it is in your heart that you want to say to your healthcare agents and to the healthcare team, don't say, don't hook me up to machines, because I don't know what that means. And neither does your healthcare team. Because we have to hook you up to a lot of machines just to keep you comfortable. I worked with somebody the other day, and she was Catholic, and she said, I want the Catholic moral teaching applied. What does that mean? So I said, no, let's be more specific. What is in that Catholic moral teaching that you want to have applied? Jehovah's Witness would be no blood products. Now, when you get to the bottom of the page talks about a do not resuscitate form. I'm going to show you in a little bit what this form is. This is the physician order for life-sustaining treatment that can be filled out by a doctor, a nurse practitioner, or a physician assistant for you when you get to the last year of life and you wouldn't want an ambulance to transport you to the hospital, or you wouldn't want an ambulance to provide life support treatments. Penn State Health typically does not use this POLST document. They use an out-of-hospital DNR form, and the out-of-hospital DNR form only addresses DNR. So you have to know the health system, but any of our health systems will accept either an out-of-hospital DNR form or a POLST form. On page 7, I talked about, here are the 4 different scenarios of when you'd be close to death. And you'd pick on this page, I want life support, I don't want life support, or I want my doctor to decide. If you choose, I want my doctor to decide to provide life support and then to stop life support if it's not helping, I typically recommend to people that you put a time limit on that. So do you want that for 3 days for your family to get there? As a friend of mine did, he was dying of a stroke. He had previously said to his daughters and his wife, you know, the kids live in Washington, D.C., we live in Ohio. I want to be kept on life support until the girls can get here and you all can say goodbye together and then take me off the ventilator. And so that's something that you could do. 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. Just give a time limit because again, you're still close to death. You're not expected to recover. And that's when this document goes into effect. If you go into the hospital for pneumonia, we expect you to recover. Your living will doesn't go into effect. If you go into the surgery center and you're getting a pacemaker put in, or they're doing, in the hospital, they're doing some kind of open heart surgery, your living will doesn't go into effect because that's all curative, that's all preventative, that's all helping you to recover, to live another decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, however long it's going to be. But this is close to death. And so for this, think about, I'm not going to live that much longer, and if I want a doctor to decide, don't make it for 15 years. Because most of us don't want our family to go through that. All right, so that's wish 2. If you choke on a cookie or a piece of steak at a restaurant, you're going to be sent to the hospital. EMS is going to be called. It doesn't matter that you've got a living will because it's not appropriate for that time. This is for end of life. All right, so that's your living will. That's your 2 health directives, advanced directives in Pennsylvania. That's all that you need in order for your healthcare agents to take action and your medical team to know what kind of treatments to provide to you. Wishes 3, 4, and 5 are what make 5 wishes unique. These are the wishes that address your physical, emotional, spiritual comfort, and legacy wishes. They're really unique to 5 wishes. I've never seen them in any other document, and I've seen lots and lots of documents. These are the wishes that are helpful to your loved ones. And so some people say, oh, that's too much, that's too touchy-feely, I don't want to do that. That's fine. If that's your wish, just cross through the page, initial and date it. Cross through the page, initial and date it. But trust me, as we go through this, you'll see the value in it. How many of you went through these 3 wishes and learned some things about yourself and about what you want your family to know, to do or not to do? Anybody? Yeah. So here's where we are. Wish 3 on page 8 stresses how you want your pain managed. So for my husband, he was in serious pain from pancreatic cancer. He had 3 weeks to live. His family couldn't get there till week 2. So week 1, he was on morphine, pretty heavy morphine. He slept most of the time. He and I had been together for 15 years, so we had said everything we needed to say, and he'd wake up at 2 in the morning and start dictating the letters I had to write. But when his family got there, he said, Roberta, I need time with the 3 kids, with my mom, with my 3 brothers, with anybody else that's here. I just need that time to sit with them and to love them and to share what my dreams are for them. So let's cut down the morphine so I can be awake. And so for the 3 days that his family was there, I didn't do as much morphine in the morning, and we shot him up pretty high by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then he slept the rest of the time. So that's something that you can say. You know, if you want to be sleepy and drowsy because you don't want any level of pain at all, that's fine. Just let your family know. But if you want to be able to share ideas, you can write on here, but give me some time to say goodbye to my loved ones. Reduce my pain medications to say goodbye to my loved ones. The other important things in here are if you want to be massaged. It may not be with warm oils. It may just be that your hands or your feet, not your whole body. That can bring comfort to some people. I want to have personal care. I want to have religious or spiritual readings. So again, we're in a community of faith. What are the specific spiritual readings or religious readings that you want? What are the Psalms? What are the books? What are the passages that you'd like to have read? Don't leave it here for somebody to guess. Be specific, and you can write that below that particular bullet point. Again, on any of these pages, you're going to cross out what you don't want and leave what you do want. Wish for how I want people to treat me. So are you a person like Don's father that wants a huge party going on while he's dying? Or somebody else? Oh, that's me too. I want music and dancing and laughter. But some people want just one person at a time. Some people don't want their loved ones in the room when they die. So they'll die when somebody goes home for a respite or goes to dinner. Do you want people of faith with you? You have the opportunity on this to say who your faith community is. So if it is Derry Presbyterian Church, write that at the bottom of the page on the left-hand column. If Pastor Stephen is your favorite person and you want him to be the person that's your clergy, your minister, your rabbi, your imam, your spiritual advisor, whoever that is, write that there. You can say, I want hospice care. I want to die at home, or not. Some people just don't want to die at home because they don't want that memory lingering. That's where I fell out with my husband's family, because we had him at home with hospice, but 18 years ago they said, we can't care for him in this last week. We need to move him to the inpatient hospice. It was attached to his hospital where he worked. He knew it very well. It was a lovely gardens, lovely places. We could have taken the dog, all the kids, and just stayed there. But his family wanted him to die at home. And so that's the decision I made with him, that they no longer talk to me. So that's what I'm trying to prevent, is that kind of situation. What name do you want to be called? So, is it Pop Pop? Is it Oma? What are the names that you prefer? Wish 5. Now this is the chance to say, I love you, I forgive you, I know you love me, please forgive me for the times I've hurt you. Please know that I know I'm going to a better place. Please get counseling if this is way too hard for you. Please respect and honor my wishes, even if you don't agree with them. And then, where do you want to be buried or cremated? Who knows your wishes? What do you want in a memorial service? How do you want to be remembered? The one here that says it's important for my healthcare providers to know what matters most to me, those are the non-medical things. So that second to the last bullet on page 9, that's, I gotta have socks on because my feet are always frozen. Or don't tuck those sheets in too tight against my feet. I can't stand that. Or I'm always cold, or I'm always hot, or I don't like ice in my water, or I want a Pepsi. Turn the TV to the Phillies, not to the Red Sox. I don't want to hear any news. Put it on music or turn it off. That's what you put there. So everybody knows what are the things that are most important to you. And I did have a patient that I worked with, and he watched the Phillies all the time. And he said, if I'm dying in the summer, I want a game on, please. So the bottom, again, you can decide about donation. You can also decide about memorial contributions. Please make sure that you have somebody who can turn off all of your social media. So what are your next steps? review this. I know some of you have over this past week. Talk about it then with the people who matter most to you. Talk to the people you've named as your healthcare agent. Make sure they understand. Give them the Making Choices card. Make sure they have a copy. Go over page 5 with them so they know what decisions you want them to make and not make. And then fill it out. Signing and witnessing, on page 10 then, you're going to print your name, your address, and your phone number. But you're not going to sign it and date it until you have your 2 witnesses with you. Now, who can be witnesses in Pennsylvania? Anybody over the age 18 that's not your healthcare agents and is not your financial agent, so not your power of attorney for finance or your executor, cannot be your insurance agent, but could be somebody at your primary care office. They could sign as a witness. Your neighbor, any other family member, close friend, the bank. You don't need a notary and you don't need an attorney in Pennsylvania, so don't waste your money or your time. All you need are those 2 witnesses watching you sign, and all they're doing is saying, I've seen Roberta Geidner on the 10th of November sign this, and she looks like she's pretty okay. She doesn't look like anybody's coerced her. Then what do you do with it? So, what do you do after completing it? On page 11, there's lines there that you can say who you've given it to. So when you need to revise it and replace it, you have that opportunity. There is a wallet card that you can fill out, put with your insurance card. You can laminate this at Staples. So fill it out. It has your name, your healthcare agent, your primary care physician, and where your document's been given. So give it to WellSpan, give it to Penn State Health, to both hospitals where you might be taken by an ambulance. If you live closer to Dauphin County and the hospital there, give it to Penn State Health and UPMC. Make copies. So make copies of it. Give that copy to your healthcare agents, any family members, anybody else who you think might be interested or might try to interfere. Because knowledge is half of the battle. And make sure your primary care physician, your specialist, if they're in a different healthcare system, and your hospitals. Don't put it in a safety deposit box. Take a copy with you if you're going for surgery. They always want a copy, even if they have one in the chart, because they want to make sure they have the latest one. And when you update it, we all know that we go to the latest dated version. All of them are in our health charts most of the time. In my chart at WellSpan, I can go to the advanced care planning page in my portal, and I can see all 5 advanced directives that I've given to them, and I can see the names of my healthcare agents, because WellSpan's on Epic, and that's how they've done it. So, no safety deposit box, your wallet card with your insurance card. And there's a digital registry now nationally where you can fill out a digital version of 5 Wishes, and it's shared across the country. So any of the hospitals that are participating with mydirectives.com, you can get a copy. You can get additional copies from 5 Wishes. You can fill out a PDF version online from 5 Wishes, and you can go to this digital version or upload it there. So, how many of you have had this conversation with your loved ones? Good, 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 good. How many of you need to change that conversation now that you've been through this? Paul, how many of you have it? And is this giving you that motivation to do that? What I saw in the evaluations from last week is yes, it's motivated most people. And you want your loved ones to say the same thing back. You don't want to just be the bearer of good news. You want to be the receiver of good news so that you know exactly what to do for the people you love the most. Are you going to be their healthcare agent? Are you going to be the one to support their healthcare agent? Are you going to be the one to just be by their side, helping them to die peacefully and naturally? So, 5 Wishes, that's the advanced directive I've just gone over. In your packet, you don't have UPMC Pinnacle, but they have just a healthcare power of attorney form. Penn State Health, you have this in your packet on the left-hand side. along with their brochure. They have a healthcare power of attorney form, doesn't do living will. And does it matter which one you choose? It doesn't. You can choose any one of these, you can replace any one of these, you can update them with anything you want. As I said last week, if you need to write something on a piece of paper, on a napkin, because you're in an emergency crisis, just sign it, date it in front of 2 witnesses, and we will put that in your chart, and we will follow those instructions. When should you review and update it? Well, here's the 6 Ds. Every decade birthday, or more often if your health is changing and declining. Death of a loved one. Like I said, death of a loved one might mean you've lost a healthcare agent, or it might mean that you've learned something really good you want to add to your living will, or really bad that you want to make sure doesn't happen for you. Divorce. I had one staff person say, oh my gosh, I don't want my ex pulling the plug on me, so please put divorce on your list. Now, of course, legally they couldn't, but if they're the only name and they're the one called, well, anybody knows what that might mean. Diagnosis of a serious illness or disability, you want to revisit your living will. Discharge from the hospital, usually if you're in the hospital, and oftentimes many times as your health declines, your health is declining more, so you want to look at, make sure your living will is up to date, and that decline in health. So this conversation is a gift. It truly is a gift. These conversations help you to make your initial decisions. They help you to share important, very, very important information with your loved ones, your agents, your physicians. You want to review the documents and make conversations about death and dying a natural part of life. You know, this is something we avoid way, way too much. And none of us get out of here alive. We just don't. I listened to a song recently by Bruno Mars, Death with a Smile. This is the way to get death with a smile. That's his latest song. So last week, I talked about this document. So the Conversation Starter Guide. Did you find this helpful in thinking about having that conversation with family? The next one that's in your packet, right behind that, is this Serious Illness Workbook. This is done by the Conversation Project in Adriande Labs, and it is a wonderful, wonderful tool to use. Our physicians don't like to talk to us about our illness. They don't like to give bad news, because they're supposed to bring hope all the time. Somehow bad news means that they failed us, which it doesn't. It just means they haven't figured it out. And they may not be able to figure it out because there's other powers out there that sometimes figure out our lives. So this you can use to help make decisions, to talk with your doctor. This is the Pulse document. And this is in the last document, next to the last document in your packet. This is what I talked about. This is what ambulance staff need. It's Pulsar pink on cardboard stock. Your physician, nurse practitioner, or physician assistant fills this out with you. You put it on your refrigerator. I prefer you to put it by your front door, not in the closet, but actually on the back of your front door or right next to your front door in a sleeve so that EMTs will see it immediately. They are trained to look for it and they are trained to follow it, so that as they're transporting you to the hospital or back to a nursing home or back home, they know exactly what you want. And that's only to be used in the last year of life. If you're 85 running the Boston Marathon, you don't need a Pulse. But if you're not running the Boston Marathon and some doctor has said, based on your age, based on your illnesses, I don't suspect that you'll last more than the next 12 months. That's when you want to make sure you have a Pulse. So in your packet, all of the different areas in the Pulse are spelled out for you. And the advanced directive is for future care. The Pulse is for current care in that last year of life. It's a doctor's order. And this is the document that if somebody has Alzheimer's and dementia, somebody doesn't have capacity, this is the only document that a healthcare agent or a family member can fill out for someone else. You cannot create a living will or power of attorney for somebody else, but you can create this for someone else to help them with care. So once you have your wishes determined, you fill out your documents, make sure that you're sitting around that table with a cup of coffee or beer or a glass of wine, whatever the drink of the moment is, an iced tea, and have that conversation. And here's what it could happen.
A couple of years ago, we had our first conversation project, and there was one individual who was a part of the initial conversation. About 6 months later, developed a cancer, very bad cancer with a bad prognosis. It was still hard to have the conversation, but she was much more open to us thinking through what she